What is up, everyone? First, YouTube Q&A, and I'm going to be pulling questions from Twitter. So what you will have seen the other day, I asked for questions and people put some in the comments. So I'm going to be doing these moving forwards every couple of weeks. So I'll be keeping an eye out on Twitter for when I ask the questions, because I'm going to come in with a screen record a video like this and then go over the questions that are in the comments. So this is your chance to ask any burning questions that you might have and need my help from when it comes to training, nutrition, and just getting jacked in general. So let's get into it. So first one, big Jason himself, the big 6'4" beast. Right. So which muscles or muscle groups should be trained more due to either fast recovery time? I'm pretty sure some muscles recover faster than others or are naturally stubborn to grow. So it's a good question. Now, when it comes to training a muscle group, the frequency that you're going to need to attack each muscle group. Now, for the most part, it's all going to depend on, this can be the answer for a lot of people. It's all going to be individual, but again, that's not really going to help people now, is it? So, first thing what I'd always recommend for people is, for the most part, a frequency of hitting a muscle group about twice per week or twice every 10 days. So, twice every 7 to 10 days. That's going to be a decent ballpark range to start off with. And then what you need to do is assess how you're recovering and how your results are. Now, you may need to taper up that frequency or down a touch, depending on again, the results that you see. You need to try and error with that. But as a general recommendation, there are certain muscles that I've found, and with a lot of other people, that can be trained more often, just because they're generally smaller and they don't take on as much damage. So things that I think could be trained a little bit more frequently would be things like calves, maybe medial delts, abs. I know a lot of people, some people will train abs, calves every other day, because they do tend to recover a little bit faster than, let's say, muscles that take on a lot of damage. That would be things like the hamstrings and quads, even the pecs, certain muscles at the back, especially the lower back, the spinal erectors. You have to be careful how much you're gonna hit them. So what I would say, general outline, is each muscle group 2 times every week, 2 times every 10 days. You're gonna be good to go with that, and then taper up and down as your needs see fit, and go with that. So hopefully that helps. So next one, big Greg himself, the growth captain. If you had 1 year to get as jacked as humanly possible, what would you do? Training, nutrition, anything else? So I'm assuming that we're talking about a natural lifter here. We're not talking about, hopping on gear or anything like that, because again, that's the other side of the equation. So what would I do? Probably nothing different to what I am doing now. It's like, you can't rush the process. There is nothing that you can do apart from making sure you're on a good program and you're training effectively with good exercise selection. You're training hard enough. You're recovering properly in between your sessions. You sleep, hydration, nutrition, absolutely everything is dialed in and locked in. If I wanted to get as much out of that for a year, I would really just hone in like a monk and just focus on training, nutrition, sleep, just consistently for a year. You can't speed up the training process by doing more sets or on a specific training split. It doesn't work like that. You need to have fundamentals in place, and it needs to happen over a long period of time. You can't speed it up. So if I just wanted to get as jacked as humanly possible, make as much gains, I would just, and it was a boring answer, but I'd have a good training plan, locked in, like a monk, training, sleeping, eating, repeat. That is it. There's nothing fancy that you can do. Next one, Big Dukes. Big Dukey Butter, the legend himself, fresh off his bodybuilding competition the other week. He looked fantastic, by the way. Big up to Big Dukes, the legend himself, in the Twitter space or X space. So, best and shittest thing about living in Venezuela with respect to fitness and the gym? Good question. I'd say, let's start off with the worst. I'd say the gyms here, I don't train at like a fancy gym with all the best equipment. You're not going to be able to have the best quality machines here. No prime machines, no Cybex, Arsenal strength, Hammer strength. There's none of that here. It's all machines from like 20, 30 years old. Some of the barbells are cracked, the plates are cracked. Some of it's not the best, but I can still make it work because I know what I'm doing. I've got enough machines, I've got cable stacks, I've still got barbells which are viable to use, and the plates, 45 pounds is 45 pounds. I get it done. It's not a problem. That would be the worst thing, is that it's not kitted out like gyms in the UK or the States might be. But again, we make it work. It's like 20, 30 years behind the times here. So that's one of the negatives of it. In terms of the positives, now this is a big one. The food here is just, it's elite. I can get a kilo of top quality sirloin, right, for $8. And I'm talking good quality steak, T-bones, tomahawk steaks, you name it. The meat here is cheap as fuck and it's high quality. Not just that, things like the fruit and vegetables, everything is grown locally. Nothing is injected with hormones and bullshit. It's just all fresh food and it's all cheap. Ever since I've come here, my diet has improved massively, and I can feel the knock-on effects with whole training. So, and again, $8 for a kilo of steak, which is that's like 2.2 pounds of steak. That's for $8. That's a fucking bargain, man. So yeah, my own nutrition side of things has improved massively here. So, and plus the sunlight. I'm used to being in miserable conditions back home in the UK, so coming here and having sun all the time, good food, been a game changer. Right, next one. Mrs. O, can you explain how muscle and fat are not the same size, as in a pound of muscle is roughly half the size of a pound of fat? So when folks obsess over the number on the scale and get discouraged and utilising a measuring tape instead, is that any better? So first thing, muscle mass is a lot more dense and compact than fat. So if you're going to look at that as a metric as progress, what I always say to people is that the best thing that you can do if you're going to be trying to measure progress, instead of being obsessing over the pounds on the scale is just a tool, number one. Number two, you need to be thinking of, how is your performance in the gym? That is a big thing. If your performance on the lifts is going up and we're getting stronger over time, that's a good sign for body composition. The next big one is take progress photos. Actually take visual pictures. Get a set of pictures from the front, side and back. I do this with all my clients when we start, and every 4 or 6 weeks we'll take pictures in the same area, the same lighting, and you can actually see the visual progress. That might not show on the scale, again, because of you can go through the body recomposition effect where you can build muscle and lose fat at the same time. That won't show on the scale, but it will most definitely show in pictures. So focus on training performance. Progress pictures are massive. And another big one, which people neglect, is how do your clothes fit? I know many people I've worked with many people, they stay the same weight, but their pants will be looser. So they've lost body fat around the hips, around the waist, and maybe the t-shirt might fit a little bit tighter, especially if you're a fella. The t-shirts will fit a little bit tighter around the arms, around the chest. That's a good sign because we're building muscle. Body composition is improving for the better. So how your clothes fit is a big one. How your clothes fit, training performance, and progress pictures. They're some of the best metrics to actually see progress, not just pounds on the scale. That's just a tool. Be less obsessed with the number on the scale. Them other 3 metrics are much more important in my eyes. Next one, Thiago Ramos. How exactly should we approach a mini cut? Is cutting carbs in half enough? Well, first thing I have got, if you go back on my YouTube here, I've got a video on how to do mini cuts, and I'll walk you through it. But in general gist of things is that a mini cut it's an aggressive fat loss phase, and it's not meant to be sustainable. So you're going to be in quite a hefty deficit, probably 30% below maintenance. Now, is cutting carbs in half enough? Again, that will depend how you want to do it. But what I always go for is keeping protein the same. Protein will be high, at least 1 gram per pound of body weight, maybe a little bit higher. You want fat at just a minimum level, 50, 45 grams per day as an example, and then you'll fill the remainder of your calories with carbs. So just to say cut them in half, that will depend on the person, but it's going to be a pretty aggressive deficit, and you want to keep carbs as high as you can, keep fats low, and protein at least 1 gram per pound, and then you're going to be good to go. Again, mini cuts are not meant to be sustainable. They're short by nature, 3 to 6 weeks. You're looking for maximum fat loss and maximum muscle retention. So go back and have a little look at the video I done a couple of weeks ago on mini cuts. That'll help you out too. Right, big Fidge himself. If diet, rest, training are all on point, does the ability for the body to grow muscle diminish beyond a certain age? E.g. the difference between a 30-year-old and 40-year-old looking to get jacked. So first thing, when it comes to this, mate, I don't look so much in terms of chronological age, whether someone is 20, 30, 40. That's not as important to me. The big thing for me is training age. How many years have you actually trained in the gym? How many of proper serious training? If someone is 30 and they've never lifted a weight in their life, they're going to make a ton of gains from the age of 30 to 40 because, again, it's a novel stimulus. They haven't touched the weight in their life, so they're gonna make it just very similar gains to someone who might be 25 starting out, or maybe 18 to 28, or 30 to 40. It all depends on your training age. Now, your ability to grow muscle doesn't diminish, but what does change between 30 and 40, and the difference if you're 18 to 28. If you're 18 to 28, in that range, means a lot of people, they might not have as much responsibilities at that age. They might still live at home with the parents. Some people, they don't have kids, they don't have a stressful job, so the outside factors allow them to focus more on training hard and recovering a little bit better. Whereas maybe someone 30 to 40, they might have a very, very stressful job, could have 3 kids, a lot more responsibility. So their ability to recover might be a little bit hindered in compared to someone who may be 18. That's one big factor you need to look at. But in terms of your ability to grow muscle, it's not going to diminish at all. And then you start looking into factors like genetics, all of that stuff that plays a role. But I wouldn't be disheartened if I was someone who's just been first couple of years in the gym, even if I was 30 or 40. It goes on training age. You're going to be able to build a lot of muscle. I wouldn't worry about that at all. Chronological age isn't as important as training age. So hopefully that makes sense. Best warehouse on a limited equipment set, staying in a hotel and using their gym, for example. It all depends how bad and limited the gym is. Now, if you're in a hotel gym and they have a functional trainer, at least you can do a ton of things with a cable functional trainer. You can literally train most muscles in the body with that. So you'd devise a warehouse plan based around the cable stack. If you're basically just in there and they have some dumbbells, maybe going up to 20, 30 pounds, again, that's what most hotel gyms are like. It's not the best. You're just going to have to do a lot of bodyweight stuff, tons of push-ups, and training close to failure. That's the big thing. You're not just going to do a set of 20 push-ups and that's it. If you can do 40, you're going to have to do a couple of sets getting close to failure. That's where they can be a pain in the arse. Is that them type of warehouse with limited equipment, they're going to have to be more higher reps. You're going to have to slow the tempo down. You're going to have to add pauses. You're going to have to make it as hard as possible to use as little weight as possible. Upper body training, again, push-ups. If you have a pull-up bar, great. If you have somewhere to do dips, you'd be good to go there. Leg training can be a little bit tricky. You're going to have to do a lot more single leg work with dumbbells, whether that be Bulgarian split squats, walking lunges, really slowing the tempo down, just making them really hard. Single leg Romanian deadlifts, things like that. It's not ideal, but it's better than nothing. So basically, the overriding theme is you've got to make sure you're training close to failure still. And if you have to slow a tempo down and add pauses in, you'll still be able to get some work done. Next one, LNG. Lots of worries lately about blood sugar spikes from carbs like white rice, potatoes, oatmeal, etc. However, they're the most convenient and digest well. Should healthy individuals worry about blood sugar insulin spikes? Does it somehow increase risk of insulin resistance, diabetes? I posted about this yesterday myself in relation to how many carbs I eat a day. If a person is lifting weights a couple of times a week, your activity levels throughout the day are pretty high. You're getting plenty of steps. You're not just a couch potato who sits there and doesn't lift or doesn't do nothing. You're going to be fine. Carbohydrates should be implemented in a healthy diet. And I'm not just talking about eating ice cream and biscuits and chocolate and cake, all of that bullshit. Things like white rice, fruit, potatoes. As long as your calorie intake throughout the day is on point and you're not going excessively over maintenance, for example, as long as we're in a good spot, in terms of your total calorie and portion control, carbohydrates are fine. They're not going to cause any issues. The problem with carbohydrates arises where you look at the majority of the population. Majority of the population are very sedentary. They don't move throughout the day. They don't lift weights. They eat donuts and cakes all the time. They're eating over maintenance calories every single day with a lack of activity levels. So that's why people have all of these problems that you'll see. If you're a healthy person, good activity levels, as I say, you're training multiple times a week, and you're within your calorie goal, you're not going excessively over calories, you're going to be fine having some carbohydrates. If you really wanted to try and make the most of it, I would put the carbohydrates 2 to 3 hours before you train, and then 2 to 3 hours or after you train, in your post-workout meal. I would base a lot of your carbohydrates around your training sessions for when your body's going to utilize them most. But there's absolutely nothing to worry about as long as you're a healthy individual. You're going to be good to go. The fear-mongering over carbs needs to go, needs to stop. How many sets per week do you feel are enough for each body part to make progress? Interesting question, because it opens up a can of worms. This, again, it's going to be individual. It depends, again, experience levels. How hard can you train it, and how accurately can you train a muscle group? Maybe a beginner, let's say, is trying to train his chest. Maybe he can't train his chest very accurately, and he lets his delts and triceps take over. His exercise selection isn't that good. So then he needs a lot more sets in order to get the same chest stimulus as maybe an advanced individual who's really locked in and can get a great stimulus on the chest in less sets. But general guidelines, you see 10 to 20 sets. You see that touted in the industry. Now, I think nobody needs 20 sets. I think there's a cutoff, probably anywhere between 2 to 4 sets. That's the minimum. And then all the way up to like 15 sets. Now, don't think that you need to do 15 sets. That is going to vary on a person's experience levels, how well they can train, how accurate they can train each set. Recovery outside the gym, what can they recover from? I would generally say, again, most people are going to be in between that 4 to 15 range. Now, again, in terms of how helpful that is, what you're going to have to do, you're going to have to pick somewhere in there where you are now. Let's say you're training a muscle group with 10 sets per week. Stick on that for a good few months, monitor your results. If you're coming in the gym from week to week, you're getting stronger, we can add a little bit of load to the barbell, or we can get an extra rep, we're recovering well. Just keep it there. That's perfect. Good things are happening. If we're not seeing results, you might need to taper it down from 10 sets maybe to 8, or you might need 10 to 12. Again, you're gonna have that experience and experiment with this, but making sure that your recovery and sleep, all of that stuff outside the gym, is in place first with the amount of sets that you're doing. That's important. Okay, so guideline, anywhere between, people are going to be between 4 sets per week to 15, and it depends on the individual. I can't give you an exact number. You're going to have to experiment with that and taper up and down on your results and your individual needs. Right, next one, Nick Thomas. A bit about how you decide the order that each lift is done in a session could be good. Okay, so again, that's all going to depend on your goals. What are you trying to do? Are you actually training for strength or hypertrophy? That makes a big difference. If you're training for strength, for the most part, your main movements of the day are going to be the first one. If you're training for hypertrophy, again, it opens up a can of worms. You can do pre-exhaust before you do your main movements, for example. Someone could do leg extensions before they go into hack squats to really warm the knees up and get themselves ready for work. The next big thing is that in a lot of bodybuilding programs at the moment, we've seen a lot of people, they're training the muscle in the shortened position first, because it's hard to get the muscle short. So things like leg extensions first, actually getting the muscle short. Single arm lat pull downs, for example, to really get the lat bias short. There's certain muscle groups that can benefit from being trained short first, and then you get into the mid range and the lengthened range. So basically, I think, again, I'm always going to come back to this, but you're going to have to experiment and find what works for you. Best exercise for middle delts from Big Dan M. Phillips. So medial delts, I think some sort of vertical overhead press is always going to be a good idea anyway in there, just to help work the shoulders and the medial delt. You're going to get a lot of front delt work from all of your pressing that you do anyway. Any sort of overhead work is really going to help recruit some of the medial delt fibers. But in terms of bread and butter exercises for medial delts, in the order of what I think is most efficient, would be, number one would be a good machine side lateral raise, if you have a good one. And then the second one will be cables, cable lateral raises. Because of the resistance profile of the machine and the cables, you're going to be able to keep constant tension on the medial delta at all times. Whereas with a dumbbell side raise, the resistance profile, it's going to drop off, especially as you come towards the top of the movement. So if you want a consistent resistance profile, your cables and machines are going to be better. So if I had to pick best exercises for middle delts, it would be any sort of machine or cable side raise. You're going to be good to go. Big Torbain Smith. Thoughts on periodization, going through phases of hypertrophy, then strength, and finally power speed on repeat. In other words, building new muscle, making that new muscle mass stronger, before that making that new muscle mass more powerful and resilient before repeating. Again, this will depend on your goal. If this is more for like athletic performance and actual powerlifting training, this is a great strategy. More so pure bodybuilding, hypertrophy training, this doesn't matter. You don't need to worry about that. But in terms of, for example, powerlifting performance, this is the best strategy. A bigger muscle is going to have the potential to produce more force because it's going to have a bigger cross-sectional area. The thing I always like to talk about with this is that people try and do everything all at once, and that's not the way to do things. The body goes off the principle of specificity. It only has so many things it can recover from and adapt from. A good cue I got from Australian strength coach, you'll probably know him from Instagram as well. He says with this, why periodization is so important. If you try and chase 2 rabbits, you'll catch none. If you chase 1 rabbit and you focus on that, more than likely you're going to catch it. It just rings home. It makes sense to me. This, I would 100% agree with periodization. I think this is a very, very smart strategy in terms of powerlifting, strength performance, or athletic performance. This is definitely the way to go. Big strength chant. Top 5 tips and tricks for weekly meal prep. I wouldn't say I've got 5. It would just be number 1. It would be make sure you're consistent with actually doing it. Just do the thing every weekend. There's nothing else to. It's like going to the gym. You just have to do it. Make sure you find and prep foods that you actually like to eat. You're not just, if you're going to prep something and then when it's cold and you try and warm it up, if you don't like to eat that, what good is it? Tips and tricks. I'm trying to think of what I've used in the past. Things like obviously white rice, potatoes. You can batch cook them. You can batch cook chicken, ground beef, all of that stuff. Keep it in the fridge, and you've got to be good to go. But again, it all comes down to you being organised and making sure you have everything in there. Things like yogurts as well are easily portable. Tin sardines, tin tuna, things like that. They're things that you can pick up and stick in a bag and just go. A good whey protein as well, a good bag of whey protein. You can stick that in a bag as well. You'd be good to go. So that's what I go for: easily portable things, and then just making sure that you're organised when it comes to meal prepping. You do the right things consistently every week, and just do it. That's it. El Silo, from 2100 maintenance calories following a 4-month slow cut. How long would you anticipate realistic to get to 35 maintenance calories through progressive overload training? Let's see, I'm not too sure I understand. So if you're on 2100 calories maintenance following a 4-month slow cut, if you want to get to 3500 as your maintenance, that's not going to happen. You're not going to go from 2100 being your maintenance calories to 3500. There's no way you're going to add 1400 calories to your maintenance. I think you're a little bit confused here. And that won't happen. You won't be able to do that. Trade Orange. About walking 10k steps, is it alright to do it on a treadmill too? What speed? Yes, that's perfectly fine. Do it on a treadmill if you want. The big benefit I like of doing it outside is that, again, you're outside, get some fresh air, you get some sunlight. I don't like to be stuck on a treadmill getting steps. I find that pretty boring, but it will work. What speed? Again, it will depend on the treadmill, whether you want to walk on an incline as well, but just a regular walking pace that you would walk outside, and you're going to be fine. 10k steps for most people probably equate to about an hour of walking throughout the day. So, used with that information what you will. Ali H, what split do you recommend for training 3 times a week while also getting adequate volume? 3 times a week, I think you've got 2 options. You're probably looking at a full body 3 times a week, and then an upper lower full body, and that would be another way you can go about it. So that way you're hitting each muscle group at least 2 to 3 times a week. So full body times 3, or upper lower full body. That'll be your your best split. Where are you in this? This picture. This was in Dominican Republic. I forgot the name of the beach it was, but yeah, Dominican Republic, Punta Cana. All right, where are we? What else have we got? Okay, I think that's everything that we've got, people. Right, all good stuff. So that is the Q&A. So again, keep these coming. Whenever I put this up, make sure you keep an eye out for it. And again, it's a good opportunity for you to ask some questions and get some good answers. So let me know what you think of this. Drop any comments, any more questions, anything down below, and I'll get to everything in the next one. So I'll speak to you soon.